Deadlock's second annual Halloween update has hit the cursed apple, and coming back with it are the return of the Halloween masks, alongside, of course, the gorgeous trees that have now covered the entire map with a beautiful fall vibe, alongside the change to boxes, bringing back pumpkins, and of course the change to the denizens, where they're literally wearing pumpkins on their heads. This will be familiar to you, of course, if you played last year in 2024, when Valve surprisingly dropped this Halloween overhaul on us. A couple days ago, Yoshi said in the Discord that they've been working on shipping a balance patch, and we're going to re-enable some of the Halloween effects from last year to give us that beautiful Halloween aura in Deadlock once again. You can see the attention to detail that's been put into it though, with of course the new heroes now supporting the masks for the first time since the 6 new heroes were added to the game, alongside some creepy new additions that they've hid because the map is so different. Last year things were far changed compared to what we've got now in current day Deadlock, and you can see they've taken some liberties with locking pumpkins behind various grates, and even this scary pumpkin monster perhaps who's lurking below mid-boss. Alongside that, there's some great changes as well. E-Shift has had some updates, and so many heroes have been rebalanced, buffed, nerfed, and in fact really given a great go-over to try and make Deadlock feel fresh and balanced all over again. It's a hell of an update, so let's break it down and get into patch notice. As always, of course, I'm your host, Jacky. Excited to kick this one off as it's a fabulous patch, a little bit slower on the upload this time around as I'm currently away at PGL Masters Bucharest, live in Romania, doing interviews and content for the Counter-Strike 2 event. But you know I would never miss a patch, even when I'm busy, and Valve seem to love shipping major updates whenever I'm outside the house. So thankfully we got this one ready for you. Let's get into it then and kick off the first big change that Valve have made, and this one is to do with bounce pads. On screen now, of course, is how it usually works. When you hit those air vents, you bounce yourself and cascade across the map. It looks like Valve have analysed that there's a lot of issues with being able to finish kills around bounce pads, players being able to just jump on it with minimal HP and get away scot-free. This new balance change comes into effect and will now have a 0.6 second initial launch window, where if you take damage, you will be stunned. Similar, of course, to the zip lines, the way those work, where you'll get knocked off and take damage from it. You can see that Mina gets stunned in midair, then when she lands, she'll have a 2-second slow to her movement. This is quite an interesting change, and I'm curious to see how things are going to feel in regular public games of Deadlock after we get used to this, as it's quite a substantial one. What do you think of it? Let us know. Let's move into the hero updates though and kick it off with Calico. Up first, of course, on screen, it's everyone's favourite, Cat Girl. Bloom Bomb's cooldown has been increased by an additional 2 seconds, up from 10 seconds to 12, to try and reduce the spam possibility of these, alongside the base bomb damage going down by 10 as well, from 55 to 45. Spirit scaling's also been reduced, so across the board, a lot of stacking nerfs here that should make it more awkward for Calicos to just blow your face off with bombs, and you'll no longer be replenishing stamina on use when turning into Ava the Cat. All in all, these seem like completely reasonable changes, and I'm glad to see some adjustments made to Calico. Always frustrating again when she could just escape so easily. Let's move on to the next target then of this balance patch, and that'd be the doorman. Bullet growth has gone down from 1.15 per boon to just 1, and that headshot damage multiplier has also been reduced slightly. Though there is one added benefit to this. As much as you're not going to be able to be full gun doorman every game and easily wreck fools, you will be able to invest more spirit scaling into your call bell. If you're someone like me that enjoys the spam possibility of call bell and likes going for those more spirit oriented builds on the door fella, then this is going to be a great change for you. Of course, you will notice that substantial reduction in damage in terms of its scaling over the course of the game when you're looking to whack people in their heads, but hey ho, swings and roundabouts on that one. Dashing on to our next target though, it's going to be Drifter. Drifter actually getting a lot of changes again here, but specifically to do with his gun damage and bullet growth. You can see the bullet growth has actually been up slightly from a 0.52 to 0.56, alongside that bullet damage going up again as well from 20.9 to 21.3. However, we have had one slight scale back in terms of the bonus you're going to be receiving from using that passive in Bloodsend. So again, they've tried to make some adjustments here to potentially give you more output of damage when it comes to hitting multiple connections, of course, on Drifter's gun, or I suppose claws in this instance, those big crimson paws that he's always swinging around to try and slash you down. I don't think this is a bad change whatsoever, and it will be curious to see how it actually plays out again, of course. I feel like a lot of the optics inside of this patch have been really on the nose from Valve. They've done a great job of identifying a lot of the issues and coming into it with some interesting fixes. Here you can also see the rejuvenating aura has had some changes for Dynamo. In terms of the way that cooldown is going to be working, it's actually going to be off cooldown slightly more now. So that's going down from 48 seconds to 45, so a buff in that respect, alongside the quantum entanglement fire rate passive going up. So when you're using that quantum entanglement, you get the additional fire rate. That's now going to be 5% flat extra on top, rounding us up to 30%. So maybe there's more room for a good potential play there in terms of buffing your individual gun damage on Dynamo off the back of that quantum entanglement and being able to get some more output off from the hero. You love to see it. Maybe we'll start to see slightly more players moving away from stomping your head in with his big old feet and focusing more on the Vonnie gun. Let's talk about our favourite barman though. It's Infernus. And if you're a fan of not playing against Infernus that's just absolutely fed and melting you at every opportunity, you won't mind this one. You can see it's all red and all down across the columns, with bullet damage having some substantial reductions there in terms of its growth per boon, alongside flame dash that could be quite problematic at times with that tier 2 upgrade, adding the flat extra 35 damage now being brought down to 30 instead, and even afterburn having some adjustments made to its overall tier 1 and tier 3. Again, I feel like these are fair changes. There's always been a lot of strong Infernus play as of late, so I really don't think this is too bad whatsoever. It should actually help a lot of players to be able to counter the Bernie boy himself. You might still get Scorched though, so mind out for the flames. Moving on to the other elemental Mandem, it's going to be Kelvin. Kelvin's regeneration has gone down. That's where it would be reduced from 2 to 1, alongside quite a substantial change there as well, with a big increase on that cooldown of Frozen Shelter. Again, I think this is a good choice to make. Making those ultimates that are larger in stature, that control more of the game, really feel that way in terms of investment. If you throw this out, it's got to be worth it. It needs to change a fight, or it needs to be for a great pocket heal on the team, or in terms of self-sustainability for Kelvin. You can't just throw it out willy-nilly. 20 seconds in Deadlock can make a hell of a difference, so I think this one is good optics from Valve, alongside, of course, that reduction in terms of headshot damage that you're going to be able to output from Kelvin. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of those changes in my eyes. Curious to think what some of the Kelvin mains out there might have to say on the contrary though. Again, here's another fun one for the mcginnis mains. This is going to be a buff that Valve have slipped in terms of Medicinal Spectre. Now it lingers for 1 second. To give some additional context to that, effectively, when you were inside of that radius of Medicinal Spectre, the buffs that would come along with it and the regeneration, the second you would step outside of that zone, that was gone. It would end. Now you'll have a 1 second window of leeway. So from the moment you walk outside its radius, it's still going to have that passive effect affecting you. It's not just going to instantly disappear. So a little bit more opportunity to play around with Medicinal Spectre there potentially. Again, I think this is a nice little adjustment. It does actually give you more leeway to play around some of the utility there and get more supportive work out from mcginnis, just getting more value for money. Paradox has also had some changes, similar to my thoughts on Kelvin. I think it's the same kind of vein here. Paradoxical Swap was just so quick on cooldown. 75 seconds feels a little bit more reasonable. It almost felt like it was off CD every minute in lane. Soon as Paradox gets her ultimate, you're having it thrown at you time and time and time again. So I don't mind the fact that we've brought that up to 75 seconds, alongside that reduction, of course, the bullet damage that Paradox is going to be having against you. 7 This is an interesting one. Obviously, a lot of players really hate playing against 7 still. You'll always see people saying, oh, 7's so fed, he's so strong. But it's interesting, of course, that with the changes that we've seen in the game and how things have been rebalanced, Valve have actually identified they'd like to give a little bit more stock back over into Lightning Ball. And that's going to be going up in terms of the spirit scaling that you'll have to play with. So that's going up from that 0.43 to 0.55. So quite a nice increase there. You know, it felt for a while that maybe everyone was focusing more on ultimate builds, using power surge very religiously, whereas now you're able to bring back in potentially more ball-oriented plays. If you're a bit of a baller, this will be a nice update for you. Shiv has also had potentially just an adjustment. It's not really even a nerf depending on how you were using that alt fire, right? If you're someone that was using this for movement capabilities and in terms of being able to actually really intricately work it into your kit, you're going to feel the effects of this one. For more general players that aren't really too sure of how to use it and felt they were getting blown away, there's a 10% reduction in terms of the knockback force, so the slug shot that he's firing out won't be sending you as far. Then we can get on to Victor. Now, of course, Victor has been top of the docket in terms of heroes that are absolutely unbelievable as soon as they're fed, as soon as they're hitting that sort of 30 to 40k mark. It's just self-sustain and output you can have, being able to purge these effects off you, constantly just be a beast in lane. Yeah, kind of scary stuff. So Aura of Suffering there going to be reduced, and some swaps when it comes to Pain Battery. We can get on over to Vyper as well, though, the Staten Island gal. Now, for Vyper, it's just going to be, again, slight changes in terms of your damage output and spirit scaling with Screwjab Dagger. They've been trying to improve this. It felt like it was a really underutilized piece of her kit, so glad to see they're still working on that. And as a Warden enjoyer, I like this. It's always time to change the world, and increasing the bullet damage from 15 to 16.2, I'll take it. Binding Word up by an extra meter as well to 20. Boy, oh boy, Warden mains be eating good with this one. What do you think about these Warden changes, actually? I'm curious what the general consensus would be on it. Let's move away from heroes then and focus up on the vast item changes. Mystic Shot was first on the docket with its base damage being reduced but being given slightly higher spirit scaling. Fair enough, it was a problematic item on some builds. Capacitor also becoming a little bit more skill oriented there, of course. You can purge bridge buffs, so the fact that cooldown goes up a little bit, I won't complain. A lot of these are fair and entirely reasonable in terms of the approach that Valve have gone for. I think you've got a lot of problematic items that gave so many players opportunities to always escape on bare minimal HP, and you can see they've targeted this here to try and bring that back a little bit, especially in conjunction when you factor in the new vent changes, being able to hit those air jumps. Suddenly now you can't just peace out, living on a prayer, popping all of your healing items when mass spec'd into Vitality. You can see as we cycle through some of these, the overall collection of changes. There is one that is going to be a bit more of a buff for the Vitality category as well, with you getting more value now out of Trophy Collector. I don't mind this too much either. You can see Majestic Leap. It's a few more seconds on top of that cooldown there that should make it, again, a little bit harder to either entirely disengage from fights or look for those quick engagements if you're being able to hit a bounce pad, as Lash, go in, Majestic Leap, the classic movement aggression that really can be so oppressive in a game of Deadlock when up against a good movement player. Not to say, of course, you know, they're massively nerfing it for the movement community, but more I think if you're being able to outplay people with poor macro in situations where you're surviving where you really shouldn't, it feels like that is what has been addressed throughout this patch. Quite a few item changes there, a lot of them obviously being flavor of the month and very popular right now, so don't mind to see it. Honestly, this is a really good patch. I think the optics of this one, you've got great rebalances, good adjustments to the heroes and items. It's so cool that we get another Halloween update, even with Valve heavily focused on the development of the game from what seems to be more of a balanced stance. It's good to see we still got the pumpkins and the masks back, and we get to see what the new heroes look like wearing them. That's it, though, for Patch Notice. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, I'm your host, Jacky, and I'll see you soon with more content here on Dead Air. For now, though, get back out there and smash those pumpkins. Bye-bye.